Don't wanna see you tonight. Why you think you're so bright? Cause it's not 1969. I wouldn't want to be, want to do anything, cause I don't want to be a part of your social scene. One ticket to hell. One ticket to hell. It's what I gotta say. All right, you know I got the hooks. That's right. Welcome to the Grievance Gordy Show. I'm back at it again today. I could do this show every day, right? It's called Canceled and Loving It, Living My Best Life, Writing a Novel, which would be the novelization for a television series, right? What is the penultimate? I have songs. I have stories. A lot of this stuff is based on real life incidents. My life, okay? My love for the cinema. Now, in case you don't know, I'm writing a novel called Linoleum Blown Apart. And there's two characters. One's named Walter and one is named Lionel. Lionel, Lion, Napoleon. Lionel is born August 15th, 1969. August 15th, did I say? Sorry, I do my show live. So if snot flies out of my nose, well, there you go. But that's Napoleon's birthday. And the reason he finds this out is because he's watching a film by Walter, who was born in 1915. And he wants to make a film about Napoleon. Why does Walter want to make a film about Napoleon? Because it's going to remind him of his father and his uncle who were killed by the fascist dictators, government officials in his country. And Walter fled that country to come to America. Okay, that's the story that's interwoven into Lionel's life. Lionel is born on this day. Walter turns in the film. Hope you guys get all this. Okay, it's like going to be like a Thomas Pynchon novel. It's going to have songs, it's going to have bands, it's going to have music. Because I wrote it already. It's already written. Okay, so that's the connection. Walter wants this big fanfare for Napoleon's bicentennial. Why? Because I remember America's bicentennial, 1976. Okay. And there is, I think, Pluto's in conjunct the way it was in 1776, something like that. All right. So I'm into astrology. I'm into astronomy. I'm into religions. I'm into mythology. Right. I don't have the same purview about this world at all. And I'm a creative person. Why? Because I didn't have a parent to identify with. And my mother was busy with my sisters. And so I had to, fend for myself when it came to entertaining myself. Okay. And I became a creative person. Right. And what most people understand is what they're told in the newspapers or, right, what they teach in schools, right? And I call it, don't think of an elephant in your pajamas. So once you know this, that's it, right? Once you see a symbol, right? You see a symbol as meaning something, then every time you see that symbol, you're going to make that connection in your mind. Okay, that's how important our knowledge is, whatever we're putting in this thing. Woo, 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 woo. Right? So I didn't care what was going on in my schools. Yeah, I learned it. I took college prep. That's how I know that the operation, uh, don't forget, we're the counter conspiracy program, Coco Pro. But that's how I know that the operation that involved Jodie Foster's army in the 1980s that ushered in the punk rock era and the shoegaze and alternative. We just called it alternative music, but I was in the punk rock milieu playing songs very similar to Green Day and Rancid. Okay. So that's how I know that that was an operation, right? The death of John Lennon, who was a punk rock hero, don't forget, and the shooting of the president of the United States. And they were going to let that guy go. I believe it was Mark David Chapman, whichever one, John Hinckley Jr. I don't even know. I don't even know the difference between the two. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You just don't. They're nearly identical people. But that's not what we're talking about here. But I did grow up in the 1980s, and it was very profound, had a very profound effect on all of us. And it ushered in this era of music. And that's the era of my novel. That's one of them. But you have to go all the way back in time. So very similar to Stanley Kubrick, who wanted to do Napoleon. This novel that I'm writing, it's called Linoleum Blown Apart. I want it to be a television series. I'm not going to make any bones about that. I have the production assistant experience. I know what a treatment looks like. All you have to do is just write up every scene. That's what I'm doing. But I had to get my bennies. I had to get my benefits. Okay. And, I talk about a lot of things on the show. So you got to stick with me. You can listen at 1.5 while you drive. I appreciate it. But I just did a show yesterday, and I hope you check that one out. But this one is about the justification of having these two characters. Okay? Lionel is still young and impressionable, and he is watching this film. But of course, they get the idea from another band. Because the other band got their name from a film by the same film director. Who's this guy? Walter? What about him? Well, he has a film called Bonaparte Bon Ami. Really? They're reading a book. They're at rehearsal. They're drinking beer. Right? They're in a band called Urban Upset at that time. Right? They just got into a new rehearsal space. Okay. And the guy who opened up the rehearsal space is the son of an old gangster. And this old gangster has ties to the music industry. He has equipment that's in storage from bars. You understand? He has old PA systems, all just collecting dust, right? Because his family had to go legit. So any kind of, other stuff, they're not using that. They're in restaurants. They're taking the money their father made, and he had to go to prison, and he had to fight the government, and they're trying to get his money, and he hid it, right? So this is a buried treasure. This is something that I haven't told you guys in case you've been watching my show. So just like, what is it? Capone's vaults. This is another thing that I'm giving away. There is possibly buried treasure in their family that Dino, he never told any of his children. Now, Max, the one who opened up this rehearsal studio that the band Urban Upset that Lionel is rehearsing at, he is Dino's bastard son from his Guma. Okay. So in my property, they don't have to be Italian. They don't have to be any nationality. You can use anybody. It's like United Colors of Benetton. You can have mixed race people. It doesn't even matter. Max could look like me. His mother could be mixed race, right? Maybe that's a little stigma there. It's not written yet completely. I'm writing the outline to this. Okay. I'm looking to get work. I want to work. I don't want to sleep in my car. My neck is killing me. I can't stretch out. Anyways, I don't want to get too far into it about my like griping. Somebody gives a shit. Nobody wants to hear it. But okay, so we're sticking with the story here. This is what brings these two characters together, right? They're both. It's like, well, wait a minute. Well, we don't know what happened to Walter. Walter turned in this film on August 15th, 1969, is what I'm trying to tell you, because he wants to celebrate Napoleon's bicentennial. Okay? Walter just happens to be born on this day. Of course, he doesn't figure any of this out until he's watching Bonaparte Bonamy on a VHS copy at his rehearsal studio 20 years after, which would be 1989. That's why you're using my songs, because I wrote my songs in the 80s. This is just falling out of me. Okay? It's one of the most genius ideas ever. It just is. I'm sorry. Am I part of the dark triad now? Ooh, am I Machiavellian? I'm sorry. I'm just not buying it. Okay? If somebody's Machiavellian, narcissistic, and a psychopath, wouldn't you be able to figure that out by the time they're a psychopath? This is targeting individual nonsense, and I'm not going to play into it. I take the mick out of a lot of things. If you're part of a political party and you're not doing any self-examination of your party, you got some serious problems. We have to self-examine ourselves. Does that make sense? So why wouldn't you self-examine your political beliefs? Right? I don't listen to the same music that I was listening to, so why wouldn't my opinions and my tastes shift? I got to be honest with you. Speaking of tastes, most of what I watch are people eating food. Just like I have a $6 per day budget for food. Okay? You try living on that. I lived on it for a year already. I'm going into my second year. I moved here in 2022. I'm sorry, December of 2021. I moved to Los Angeles. I made a conscious decision to come out here. I didn't know what I was doing. Okay. And so you can tell from this that I didn't know what I was doing. Absolutely. So I started making this film about marooning. And this is on you can watch this yourself. Okay. I shot this in the morning and people were walking right by me. Water in the desert. And I'm by some cacti right here. Okay. This I was supposed to say Santiago, and I made a mistake. That's the cactus. I'm creating this out of when you're maroon, thin air. You can go from a marsh to a forest to a desert. All in the span of a day. All I got to do is just talk like this. That's all I have to do. I've done voiceovers before. I can do a lot of voices. That's all I'm doing is I'm just talking like this. That's it. And I'm creating this dialogue right here. And I'm doing very long takes, guys. This is by design. Okay? Because you have this kinetic editing. I brought this up before. If you've been watching my show, I talk about this all the time. This is TikTok videos. These are YouTube shorts. I'm YouTube exclusive. Hey, fellas, how you doing? Right? You have to self-examine and you have to be critical of things. And that's what I'm saying. It's like there's so many, like, I'm on this side of this, I'm on that side of this. When I'm into punk rock in the 1980s, we were so progressive, it was insane. We had LGBT friends, that's what I'm telling you. We had mixed race friends, we had, friends from all walks of life. And that's why all this other stuff is nonsense. It's going on today. It is nonsense. And again, I talk about the recurrence. It's these patterns that keep going over and over and over again. And that's what I was trying to show on this show. It's called Maroon. This is part of my creative process, including all these songs. All this stuff is on my channel. Most of it I put up over the last year. Look at the amount of stuff that's on my channel. And I took a bunch of videos down. Okay. And it's very dangerous. I try to explain to you, this is electrochemical. And what they're trying to do a lot of times is the AI, it's either in your phone. I haven't figured this out yet, but you become addicted to these programs and you become part of it. And it's easy. That's why they're waiting with meds in a bed, because they can crank up the algo if you're targeted and you start talking crazy. Now, they do it through lack of sleep. Kanye West, they said he's suffering from exhaustion, lack of sleep. Beeper, beeper. Amanda Bynes, the same thing. Bam Margera, the same thing. And what did he do? He did the same thing as me. You retreat back into just smoking pot and drinking beer because you don't know what's happening. It's very scary. I know what's happening because I know how to keep my mouth shut. I've kept my mouth shut for years about things. Okay. And so right now, in case you don't know, I'm writing a novel. It's a novelization for a television series. This is a television series that I created. It's called Marooned. I created all this dialogue off the top of my head, and let's take a listen.
We got a guy who tells us what time it is based on the sun.
So I'm giving you the characters, but you're not seeing them, but you're seeing them in your mind. Oops.
What do I do? Whatever I have to. Make sure the beasts stay away.
You hear the cars. You can hear them driving by. It's broad daylight. People are going to work.
A little fishing.
You hear that?
Build a campfire. Every day's different. Every day's another climate. When you're a maroon.
Okay.
Venture further out. And some of us don't come back. That's just the way it is.
I got lucky by mentioning other people. That's what I wanted. And then did you guys hear that piece of rebar fall? Let's hear it again in case you missed it. You probably didn't.
Build a campfire. Every day's different. Every day's another climate.
There it is.
Campfire.
That caused me to say build a campfire.
Little fishing.
That's a piece of rebar.
Every day's different.
Falling.
Every day's another climate.
And I have to incorporate that.
You're a maroon.
And I did. So I don't think anyone has any appreciation for that. You're just watching me. Oh, this guy's just rambling on.
That's just the way it is.
And I say you got to venture further and further out. The climate changes while you're walking.
Tomorrow,
who knows? I never watched Lost, so whatever that, if you're thinking I'm getting this from Lost, I never watched that show. I'm doing something. I'm trying to do something different.
All I know is I can't wait to get back.
Right? How would you feel as a maroon? Take a look at that film called The Revenant. Okay, it's very similar. They come to America. They're stuck here. They got to get these pelts. Those pelts are their money. And they're struggling to get back. It's the same thing, but it's a dystopian future. When you think about this, you can watch this. It's on my channel. Please do. I hope you do. I got a couple of these. Here it goes again. Nothing's happening here. Happens all the the time. Oopsie daisy. Come on, buddy. What are you going to do? Okay. So, right. I might play another one from the other one. I like the one at the beach. I do one at the beach. Well, I do. I think I do two at the beach. Okay. And I do very long takes. I just sit there and you can hear the waves going on in the background. I'd like to play it right now, really. While I got you here. I get you, got you, gummy. Is that a get you, got you, gummy you got there? Hey? Let's take a look. Okay. I mean, all this stuff, like I said, I put up. Okay, come on, dude. Sorry, guys. That's okay. We have to work extemporaneously here. So that's what we have to do. Right? So I'm trying to explain to you the importance of Napoleon. The series is called Linoleum Blown Apart. So everybody knows it rhymes with Napoleon Bonaparte. Everybody knows that. That was the name of my band, right? When I moved back in the '04 era, I talk about Michigan in the '04 era, right? So, and that's what it is. He has the same birthday as Napoleon. And this filmmaker saw Abel Gans' 1929 silent film called Napoleon. It's 5 hours long. Okay. Wim Wenders, Until the End of the World. Huge inspiration to me as an actor and a wannabe filmmaker. 5-hour version of that. I'd love to see it. I'd love to watch films with somebody I actually care about, somebody who's actually into the same things as me. And look what I have to do. I got to drive all the way out to California to try to make new friends. This is how sad. Like, people in my own family won't even watch films with me. You know, it's like, it's insane. I don't have a friend in the world. And my wife, I knew for 30 years, and she was part of an operation. And that operation was to get me to commit suicide. They were convinced they could do it. They were convinced that they could get me to commit suicide. And they did. Try. Right here. And I outlived it. They ran, I call it Q-ops. This is electrochemical. And it can come through your TV. They can intensify it, and they can intensify it in your car as well. Okay, so I left that out of what I'm talking about, but it's really true. Okay, so I mix this information in. Check out, I got the jab to get a job. I use a lot of non sequiturs, and there's something called the selfish ledger. So I talk about a lot of things on the show. That's okay. That's why I'm concentrating on being a creative person, because that's what I am. Okay? That is exactly what I am. I am a creative person. And I'm really just staring down at him. Doop, doop, doop. Can't get this thing going. Right? Okay? And I wanted to hit home the fact that I wanted to hit home what the connection to Napoleon is. And I've told you guys this before. On Napoleon's birthday, I did a 4-hour pitch. Okay. Like I said, I don't want to sleep in my car. I'd like to live a little bit better, but that's okay. I got to do whatever I can.
I'm millions of years old.
Okay, here we go. How do we know? It's like you have to question your environment. And how are you going to find out new information without questioning it? Well, we got the answers already ready for you. Okay, that's one.
Best guess.
So there's scientific theories
Best guess.
and there's scientific theorems
Guess.
with an M. Okay.
What's the best guess as to where you are?
Right. So again, I'm making this dialogue up And I'm trying to infer, like, I don't know where I am. And I'm trying to reconcile this. What am I doing here? Just you know, asking basic questions, these rhetorical questions of myself. Right? Do you see this long take here? See that big forehead?
Making maps, making fires,
That's really beautiful,
hunting,
actually.
fishing.
Look at those waves coming in. Okay. Whatever. Okay. So I'm creating this dialogue off the top of my head. The whole idea was that we keep getting dropped off. You keep getting what? Marooned. We're marooned. What are we supposed to do here? Well, I start thinking of films like The Revenant and what would you just naturally do? Well, you would naturally start surveying the area. That's as a guy, I would. I took a survey class at college. Okay. Right. You would just start surveying the land. Oh, what's over here? What's over there? Well, you got a marsh over here. You got woods over there. Oh, there's a desert over there. That was the point of what I was doing. Right. So I'm just showing you a little bit about my creative process. Canceled and Loving It, writing a novel while homeless in LA is the title of the show. I don't want to be homeless. But like I said, ever since I stepped out of my parents' house at 18, I wanted to get out of there. And I had some troubles and I had to go back, try to move out again, go back, right? And then I try to move out again, then I go back. Okay. In case you don't know, Jack Kerouac lived with his mother. Okay. So not a lot of people know this. They hero worship and they do all this kind of stuff. Right. So, you have to have a base. You have to have a place to work out of. And I actually honestly believe that a woman would fall in love with me because of my mind. That's how dumb I am. And I still believe it to this day. I still believe someone will fall in love with me because of who I am, because I believe it's happened before. I believe it's happened before with ex-girlfriends of mine. Okay. And when you fall in love with somebody, you share resources. So it doesn't matter what somebody has. It's their potential. Like I said, I'm a fixer-upper. Oh boy. But I have a commercial license. I got a class A. I start work, boom, just like that. Just like that. But I have to do some other things first. And part of that is writing this novel. This is the greatest idea for a television program. Why? Okay. Did you see Perry Mason? The apparatus is already here. Did you see Babylon? The apparatus is here for that throwback to Walter's world. It's very beautiful. Those shows and those ideas that movie is empty. People aren't into that. What we're going to do is we're going to marry these two timelines the way a Marvel Studio idea is like, oh, did you see this character? It showed up in this one, and this character showed up in this one. Well, guess what? I have that too. Okay? People who are involved in the studio system in the 1940s with Walter are still going to be alive in the 1980s now, aren't they? In the 1990s. Right? Okay, Walter does 7 films. His last film is Bonaparte Bonamy. It comes out on Napoleon's birthday. It's supposed to be this amazing thing. But we don't know what happens to Walter after that. Okay? And I already have scenes written up for a possible Walter-inspired blaxploitation filmmaker. If he's turning this film in 1969, or the film comes out in 1969, August 15th. Then these films in the 1970s that come out, perhaps they're not made by Walter, they're made by Walter's assistant, and they're blaxploitation films. We don't know yet. That's part of this creative process of my show. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to sell myself. I'm trying to sell my show. Abso-frickin-lutely. I don't want to live like this. And I don't deserve to be targeted. I don't care who is involved in that. It's pretty nasty business. So, anyway, but it's just, okay. So, again, because of my situation, I'm forced to be a creative person in a different way. Excuse me. I'm forced to write. That's all I have is writing now, right? I don't have a band. I don't have a guitar. I do have a video camera, but when I was making those films, I was still paying. I was paying out. Now I use Wi-Fi. Okay, so that's a different animal. So I have my songs and I have Wi-Fi. Okay, give me a break. That's not showing. There it is. Okay. All right. So that's the marriage of these two characters. That's why you care about them. That's the last film you ever see Walter handing in. Okay. And that moment is when we go back in time to Walter's world because they're reading a book about Walter. And so that in that moment is when we go back to Walter being born in 1915, but we cut till he's 15 years old watching Abel Gann's 1929 film called Napoleon. It's a real film, right? So it has this quality of Forrest Gump. There's a Forrest Gump like quality where they're going to talk about Kubrick. They're like, oh, well, Kubrick wanted to make Napoleon too, in addition as well. And you can even say, well, because he was mad at Walter's version. He didn't feel like Walter did the correct version, that there was a little rivalry between him and Kubrick. Again, you're bringing real life characters into the series. And I'm pitching a television series. I'm not just pitching my novel, right? That's why I always bring up the fact I'm a trained actor. I am a former production assistant. I'm a writer. I'm a musician. My entire life, I always knew that a person could be more than one thing. I grew up in working class Detroit, where you were told, hey, you have to do one thing. You do one thing and you do one thing only. You become a plumber, electrician. This is the world that I grew up in. So for me, seeing this punk rock thing going on, that was it. And I was the perfect age. I was 16 and it was 1982. And I'm like, yes, I can never be a guitar player like Jimi Hendrix. I write about it in my book, Two-Legged Animal. There's always a link in the description. I've never gotten paid from Amazon. They contacted me. They said, we'd like to pay you. Yeah, this time. My book, I told you guys in the last episode, that came out in 2015. Right? I was being ridiculed. I was being targeted. I was being attacked nonstop on this. And it is electrochemical. And they can change it's dangerous stuff, guys. When you're targeted like this, they can change your hormones. Okay? They can target your chromosomes and your DNA through this. That's why they were causing me to start crying, because it was hormonal. Do you understand that? They were attacking me hormonally. And my wife was laughing about it. She thought it was hilarious. Okay? That's called torture. That's what they're doing, and that's what your future is. You can go out, you could steal whatever you want. You could rob, steal, do whatever you want. But this is going to be, you might not go to jail, but let me tell you something. You're going to wish you did when they torture you through this. And I actually lived it. I outlived it. And that's why they were crushing me, and they could change the hormones to make me cry. And I was crushed. And they did it numerous times. And they point this at you and they put you on the ground. If you had a weapon, you would drop that weapon. Okay? They're not, the information about this tech, you can't find it anywhere except on this show. I don't give a fuck about tech. I don't care one bit about it. You don't see me doing videos about AI. I haven't figured out as far as I'm concerned, but I just want to live my life. I want to live the best life I can. I don't appreciate being targeted on the street. It is nonstop. Nonstop. It's like, okay, just another, that's why I call them LARPers. Am I gonna die today? I don't know. Who knows? But again, with these morons, they never took in consideration. I never told anyone I got hit by a car when I was a kid. And I never told anybody that I OD'd in 1999 in Las Vegas, just like Mad Mark Rude. Mad Mark Rude drew the Misfits album Earth AD, right? That came out around the same time, has wolf's blood and stuff like that on it. Okay. I haven't seen this. It's the Marooned video. I really like it. I like my stuff a lot. And I'd like to be able to watch my own videos. If I can, please. I don't really like my shorts. I took them down. But that's what I'm trying to tell you is electrochemically, you will. Right, so we're talking about the Misfits, and here is a Misfits inspired song. If you know the Misfits, you'll be able to hear this. It's called Death Valley Ride. What can I hide? You're living in a cup. That's what I learned on typewriter. It says Juno. I like Diablo Cody. I like her style, and I think she'd be great for this project. He has the 3 daughters. I don't know if you see this or not. All you see is there's 3 of them. Can you see them? There's the 3 maidens and the man. Okay, so I talk about this a little bit because I have 3 sisters. And I know in Shakespeare's Macbeth, he used 3 witches. That's what forms a coven. It is not 13. Gerald Gardner came up with that. He's a Freemason. And a lot of these guys are into misinformation. Aleister Crowley was trying to sell books. So if he can make himself out to be, a diabolique, a Diablo, or whatever, then he was going to do that. Okay. And so that's why he's like the precursor to, the Beatles, basically, because he's trying to be this pop star, right? He's trying to be this personality. Okay. And, again, in my studies, okay, I'm not here to follow anybody else, and I don't want people to blindly follow me. That's not followers, but your subscribers. You want to subscribe? You want to listen to my show? That's great. But my experience is that the light is the divine spark and the ideas that you get in your head. Okay? That is makes you a child of God. They would say son of God. Okay? Because it has nothing to do with masculine and feminine, guys. It has to do with limited um, a limited alphabet, not alphabet, but a limited vocabulary. Okay, this word means all of this. And the more atomistic we get, so mote it be, down to our atoms, right? What am I talking about? So mote it be, down to our atoms, electrochemical identifiers, these ions, okay? They're able to manipulate that stuff, right? But if you're a son, a child of God, well, you look beyond this material realm. You look beyond it. What does a book do to us? A book takes us out. So it's not just the Bible. You know, biblio means book, the good book. Okay, congratulations. I'm in a library. There's tons of books here. All of these books take us out. All of these books make us children of God. Okay? What makes you a child of Satan, the adversary? Your Gucci shoes. Sorry, Gucci. Right? Things that are made from this earth. Don't ever forget, the first alchemical transformation is the negrito, the blackening. Okay? And so this is very similar. So if you have this allegory and these metaphors in the Bible, then many things, these alchemical manuals that I was reading, they all work under allegory. That's how they work. So there's going to be parallels here. And that's what I'm putting into my property called Linoleum Blown Apart. You're going to see it, right? Lionel is the reincarnation of Napoleon. You're going to see his mannerisms mirror. But again, you have to be able to see it. This is a television series. It's not just a novel. Okay? The television series is in your head when you read the novel, isn't it? Right? It's very simple. What these scribes were saying is very, very simplistic things. And once you get so many translations removed from that, well, you're losing it. You're losing, you know, vitamin C. Sorry, I got it to can. A little bit. Okay. Because I like talking about Thomas Pynchon and Paul Thomas Anderson. Okay. And I talk about conspiracy. Thomas Pynchon put conspiracies in his book. I was starting to talk a little bit about John Foster Wallace. I haven't read their books. I'm not going to read, right? Infinite Jest. I haven't read it. What I do is I listen to lectures about it, right? And I read, they used to call them Cliff's notes. Hey, Cliff, can I borrow those? Can I borrow those notes you got there? Right? I'm wicca alma mater. That's right. I look everything up on Wikipedia. And this is how I'm able to form these hypothesi. And there's nothing wrong with it because that's how you begin these academic papers that everybody's like. And what that is inductive reasoning. You're using other people's books. I read 3 books and I'm finding a through line here. And I think I can add to it. Okay, so that's inductive reasoning. I'm inducing my brain, right? I'm introducing those books into my next theory, or right. There's a difference between a theory and a theorem. You have to look it up yourself. Okay, So, deductive reasoning, I'm deducing myself based upon this evidence. This is why a lot of people got into these moon landing shenanigans. Who was president while this was going on? Well, somebody who had to resign from office because of alleged corruption, right? So, this is these big shenanigans that people began questioning, like, whoa, 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 right? Wow, wow, woo, whoa, right? So, and again, you know, I'm imitating Borat, and you see these personalities, right? Let me just talk about David Chase for a minute. I was going to talk about Borat, sorry, but I'm just saying these personalities, you kind of rise up, and then you have to go down and reinvent yourself. That's the negrito. You have to burn it off, and you have to reinvent yourself. And this is what people are afraid of. They don't ever want to spend any time off of social media, or they never want to go away. These childhood actors, what's that main one? Facts of Life or something. It's not Facts of Life, whatever it was, right? And they become like, oh my God, childhood actor, they're gonna turn bad. That's not what's happening. What's happening is your life is like this. It's a sine wave. And sometimes you're up and sometimes you're down. None of us, rarely do we come up and just kind of like plateau and ride that wave. It's you're going up and you're going down. You're going up and you're going down in popularity. You're always looking for the new thing, right? The Messiah is always coming. And I believe that's why a lot of mental illness takes place, because people are either they're waiting to be taken care of. They're waiting for a friend. They're waiting for Godot. They're waiting for their Messiah. They're waiting for the state to help them, maybe. Okay? So, right? I actually went out into the world and I actually made things happen for myself. And when I went back to Michigan, man, I couldn't believe the reaction I got. I go to a ballpark with some friends of mine, and there's a LARPer right there waiting for me. Total setups, man, just like nonstop harassment, setups. Hey, man, I'm sorry. I thought we were friends. Oh, I made a grave error. It won't happen again. Trust me. Because, like I said, a lot of those friendships were through Facebook, and that app is off my phone. And it's pretty scary business to know that they were coming through that app. And I move here to town, and I've got these people telling me to put Instagram on my phone. Well, what do you think they're going to do? They come through the apps. And I was talking yesterday about these corrupt police officers targeting individuals like Damian Eccles. You're talking about the most powerful people in that town. That's what happened to me in St. Clair Shores, Michigan. That's what happened to me. And by Jove, by my father, not my stepdad, who I love and admire and respect, because respect is earned. By Jove, by my father, was I able to make that alchemical transformation, which is just a transformation within myself, and say, I don't want to be an alcoholic smoking cigarettes. That's what my dad was. I was talking about sins of the father at a certain point. I'm me. I'm my mother too. I'm my mother and my father. But yet I am a new thing, right? I am something new, right? I'm not my sisters. I'm not the witches of Eastland. We had a mall by us called Eastland. So I say Eastland instead of Eastwick, witches of Eastwick. Okay? I'm sorry. I got a 50-50 chance of going the right way, and I do it wrong every time. Okay? I am not those I am not my sisters. I'm not my mother. I'm not my father. I am a brand new alchemical being, right? And how are we going to validate these beings? Well, you can't feel validated when you're being targeted. There's not much validation there when people are trying to throw their weight around because of quote unquote race when they don't even know what it is. Have they taken a 23andMe test? Right? They might be mistaken. Let me tell you something. I see that guy. I come walking up here a lot. I see a guy out there. Man, that guy is darker than me, and he is Anglo. He is darker than me. A lot of it's soot, but stands out there. Okay, so right, I I'm not going to be defined by race. I mean, that is the most ignorant thing you could ever think of. What? Because you share something in common with another person that makes you what? Either both bad or both good or both. Do you see how dumb and dangerous this is? Do you see why the FBI killed Martin Luther King? Right? Because he said we have to take it completely out. And they can't. Why? Because in America, it's about the patty cake fight between the blacks and the whites. But in Europe, it's about war-torn countries ushering in immigrants to places that, hadn't had immigrants in quite some time. But, how long is a generation? How long is your memory? Right? What can you remember? How far back can you remember? That's why I knew that my mother's stories were important. My mother, because I didn't know my father. I would identify with my father. I want to hear about it. I want to go fishing. I want all this stuff. But I didn't have that. Okay. So I had to create this world for myself. And I got used to that. And I would go read books and listen to music and watch films. Don't forget, the films that came out were Phantom of the Paradise and Tom Laughlin's Born Losers. Those are big films. And then on TV, there was like Psychomania. Right? Okay. I actually have some notes with regard to a motorcycle property, a motorcycle gang starting. But we've already seen that. They already have shows like that. And I'm interested in working in television on-demand series specifically. So I'm not making any bones about it. I think cinema is somewhat dead. Obviously, I think the on-demand series is really how you want to go. And don't forget, I was talking about David Chase. The reason I like David Chase is because he worked on Rockford Files. Okay. So the greatest thing about Rockford Files was when he punched somebody, he hurt his hand. Okay. So this was before breaking the fourth wall. This was in a time where you had all these fake fights, right? But you would still watch the fights and you would still, be interested in these fights, these brawls, these barroom brawls, fake glass breaking, all this kind of stuff, right? But he added that element of realness where it's like, what would happen if you really punched a guy in the jaw? Yeah, it hurts. It's like, yikes, right? You hurt yourself. And David Chase and those guys at Rockford Files utilize that. Okay. And then again, I'm talking about the end of irony. Irony never ends. And I said that yesterday, and memes are ironical. That's irony are in memes now. Okay. So what does that doesn't leave our humility and our deprecating humor of laughing at ourselves. And I was hoping to get that out of my book. I was hoping someone would read my book and be like, hey, I read your book. You know what they do? This is what they do. They come around you and they LARP and they bring up aspects of your book around you instead of coming up and directly talking to you. I mean, oh my God. And I call these people Double O Kevin because you're not 007. Everybody with this thing is a rat. DHS, Stasi, informant, informer. Ba-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. They all think they're spies now. Like, oh my God, dude. Let me tell you something. When they ran that op on me down in Florida, Q ops, where they crushed me hormonally, and my wife loved it. I don't understand. I didn't do anything to her. I didn't do anything to my drummer. I don't know what people's problems is. Like, I didn't do anything to you. You understand? They don't care. They're going to judge you by your worst fucking behavior that you did, right? That ain't right. And we all know it. There's no redemption. Oh, I'm sorry. Would I have to become a Christian? So this is what they did down in Florida. So they left out spearmint gum. I'm looking around. Oh, spearmint gum. Keep walking. As you see another pack of spearmint gum. You walking. All of a sudden you smell spearmint. Like, wow, smell. Man. Now you're seeing another pack of spearmint gum. You're like, oh shit, I'm going to pick it up. Chew that spearmint gum. Oh, fuck it. Whatever. Some more spearmint gum. Spearmint gum. Go into a store. There's a big sign for spearmint gum. You guys get it. Now, 20, I'm sorry, not 7 years later, I got a guy jumping on a picnic table out here. Gordon, you're a spearmint gum chewer. That's what you are. You're a spearmint gum chewer. This is how insane these ops are. This is how insane these ops are, man. There's one thing to do it of your own volition. In my book, Two-Legged Animal, I tell you about honeypots, right? There's a chapter about bear traps and being targeted with this projection. What's the first thing people do to you to put you down? They call out something that you happen to look like or you happen to be or whatever, and they put it in the pejorative. Well, okay. That's a one-trick pony. It's pretty weak. And when we were in the punk rock milieu, we didn't really care. We knew there were differences in people, and there's going to be fights. But we knew that different people existed. We were that decade that was 20 years after the riots and all this kind of stuff. 20 years after MLK, who was murdered by the FBI, by the way. Okay? So I talk about these recurrences. I didn't want to be my father, and I'm not my father. I didn't want to date women like my mother. Okay? But I have, and I did things like my father. And we had an Aunt Mary, and my father drank and smoked himself to death, and my Aunt Mary ended up being a cigarette smoker, right? And she died prematurely. I believe my Aunt Mary left Detroit area that she was around my mother. I wish she would have stayed. I love anybody in my family. If you're my family, I love you, regardless. There's lonely people in my family right now. They could use a good family member and a friend. What the hell happened? Burnett's? Well, my sister, or I'm sorry, my Aunt Mary, she went up north. She went up north because she was being harassed. That's why. That's why I don't give a fuck about these pieces of shit harassing me. And if I got to die in the streets, I'll die in the streets. And fuck you for life. You don't go around harassing people you don't know in a gang mentality like a bunch of pieces of POSs that you are. Oh, yeah. Now it's all normalized now. How do you like that? It's all normalized. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. It's the irony of the life that we are living, right? This is the irony. right? That you find in life. That's what it's all about, right? But what you don't want to do is lie and get involved in all this kind of base ideas down here, wrapped up in, oh, let me steal these Gucci shoes over here, right? Like these people are all wrapped up into material goods. Well, that's why they're allowing you to do that. And then these corporations are saying, sorry, you saw it on the news, you saw the footage, right? You saw the footage. They're stealing things from us. We can't afford it, right? This is by design. Okay? So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Whether or not something is by design, how do we know? But I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to speculate about that. Excuse me. Right? I'm not allowed to speculate that it is by design because it sure as hell looks like it is. It sure as hell looks. Don't corporations spend a lot of money to stay ahead of the competition? Right? So I gotta have these on. Don't they? I'll get some better stuff. I'll do a better show. I'll have better lighting. I was going to do a show outside today. I was going to tell you all about the narrative, but I get a little lost in the weeds here. Canceled and loving it. Well, if I put one of these apps on my phone, there's a chance that they're going to come through and electrochemically harass me. Now, you can predict that in the future, if you're part of this Cinderella effect, they call it the Mandela effect or whatever. When you're being digitally harassed, I walk by bus stops, it's going to be psychological harassment, and they're already still doing it. They, meaning those involved, you'll be scrolling your news feed, and all this really disturbing stuff comes up. Stuff that they know is going to scare you, things that they know are going to shock you. And then you couple that with electrochemical harassment, electrochemical manipulation. Guys, we are already in these spooky times. We're already in these times. Okay? And that's why I was always 20 years ahead of the pack. But if we're involved in accelerationism, then I want to accelerate this property into existence. It's called Linoleum Blown Apart, and it's going to come out at the perfect time. There's a film, it's called Four Rooms. You had 4 different directors shooting part of a film, and it all went together. Okay? So, very similarly, you would get 7 people, 7 different directors to shoot each one of Walter's films. The very last one is called Bonaparte Bon Ami, and he's finally able to get it in. And that's why Stanley Kubrick can't come out with his, and that's why he makes Barry Lyndon, because he's angry that Walter beat him to it. Okay? Do you see this Forrest Gump type situation we have? And that's what makes the template, are the films that come before it. That's why The Sopranos was able to be so great, because of all these crappy mob movies that came out on TV and all that, and they're still doing them to this day, and it's already passé, and nobody gives a shit. Just saying, okay? But we're building on that. We're building on Forrest Gump for this property called Linoleum Blown Apart. And you're going to go back in time, right, to this Babylon film era. There's a lot of great directors out there who, like I said, the guy from The Lighthouse film, the guy from Donnie Darko. These filmmakers are still out there. Okay? So, and again, those filmmakers that I loved from the 1990s, they're still out there. right? They're still doing it. So once we can shoot these 7 films, and that's why I just give you the template of the film, you have to fill in the details. And I love each of Walter's 7 films. And I wrote 2 more just in case. Okay. And my neck is killing me. I've been living here for 2 years. I have creeps shit talking me non-stop on job sites as well. Oh, you ain't gonna work. What they're trying to do is, again, they're nonstop trying to get me to self-harm. They're trying to marginalize me, and then they're trying to think that they're going to actually get me to commit a crime. And a lot of people would do this, but they're so dumb they don't understand the power of whatever this is within me. I told you, I went out into the world. I was very successful in New York. I was extremely successful in Detroit. But people aren't allowed to say that I am for whatever reason, because it was a big popularity contest. How am I supposed to know that? I'm just a kid writing songs. And I still have that childlike ability within me. And I never want to lose that, because that's that innocence that you have. The innocence that you have to be able to bring as a creative person. My mother, my sisters, 2 of my sisters, I have 3. 2 of my sisters, my wife, guys I've been in a band with, former friends, Harmony House morons. These people are not creative people. I am. I can make something out of nothing. Okay. And I knew people who went to, it's called CCS, Center for Creative Studies in Detroit. I don't give a rat's ass. They can't make something out of nothing. I can. Because I was been doing it for such a long time. Sorry, I don't mean to be so intense. I'm supposed to be more fun. I would be more fun like outside. I gotta try. I'm doing the best I can. I can get into the weeds and the minutia of these projects. Walter's first film that he comes out with, he leaves his fascist country. In 1944, they come out with the film called Of Reasonable Service. Okay? And it's because the guy, he does his service. Now, this is based on The Razor's Edge that Bill Murray was in. Okay? And it's called Of Reasonable Service. And he's an ambulance driver. I'm talking about the film that they actually make, because Walter has all the notes for it. He shows up at the studio, and Jerry recognizes it as having potential. He has 2 brothers. There's 3 of them. And he has 2 brothers. Well, each brother takes care of a different thing. One of them crunches the numbers, and one of them gets a hold of the properties and the stars and deals in the media. You know, can you do a story about this star? He's all into that kind of stuff. Jerry is boots on the ground, just like me, very practical. Okay. And says, yes, I got a property here, man. We can make this. I think we got something here. And they have the studios, they're getting ready to go under. So he has access to these studios, right? So again, you're talking about, they're making this film in 1940, Hamina Hamina. Well, they have the equivalent of green screens back then. It was called front projection, right? Was it called front screen projection? Right? So that's what they do. And this story is about an ambulance driver. And just like me, when I OD'd and they gave me Narcan, I woke up and there was somebody else in the ambulance. That's going into the property. You're going to be able to read this treatment on Kindle. But I need some help, guys. You know, nobody's commenting. Nobody's sharing my show. Are you going to be 138? I only got 138 subscribers, 37. Well, the ambulance drivers gets a call on the radio. Hey, we just had an explosion over here. Well, I've got somebody in the back. I'm on my way back now. No, 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 no. You got to cut over there and get this guy. And so that adds to the confusion. When he shows up to a rocket club, and the guy he fucking blew himself up. He's like, oh my God. Like, we're in a war-torn country. Like, I'm an ambulance driver, and you're over here playing with rockets, man? You're playing with explosives? So he throws him in the ambulance. Now you got two people bloody, right? So he goes back. So that adds to the character's confusion, like the intensity of it, of his feelings. His name's Godwin for right now. And he gets him to the hospital. He's exacerbated. He's tired. He has two people bringing in, not just one. And he turns around to leave. Boom! Here's Eva. Where's my brother? Whoa, lady? Heck do you mean? What's wrong with you? Your brother, I don't know. He's back there somewhere. Why don't you take it easy? Right? And so here they come. That's how they meet. Like electro spark, fire. So finally, Godwin goes and passes out because he's been busy. When he wakes up, of course, right? He's taking a power nap, 4 hours. Who does he see? Oh, there's Eva getting coffee. You know, he sees her in the cantina. You're all right? My brother was in an explosion. He's like, yeah, you were pretty explosive yourself. Right? You can see this happening. Total 1940s style film. Right? Is he going to be okay? How am I supposed to know? He's the one playing with dynamite. It's not dynamite. It's rockets. Okay? And it's the future, she tells him. Well, he didn't seem like he was going to have much of one now, did he? He almost lost that future. Right? So you have this very practical man. He's an American. Take a look at Holy Smoke by Jane Campion. Take a look at this film, Holy Smoke. I love it. It's a great film. Please. Harvey Keitel shows up. He's the quintessential American. Very similar to what I'm talking about. But obviously, this takes place in the 40s. Any 1940s film. I know a guy out here, his dad met Humphrey Bogart. And he said he ordered some booze up to the room. And his dad brought the booze into the room. Humphrey Bogart. And Humphrey Bogart said, pour 2 glasses and have a seat. Pour 2 glasses and sit down. That's a better way to put it. Pour 2 glasses and sit down. The guy's a worker there. He's not used to sitting down. Sit down and have a drink with me. So his father had a drink with Humphrey Bogart. Pretty cool stuff. Okay. These are the stories that I like. Not some scuttlebutt bullshit from some ex-skank wife or some ex-trashy girlfriend from Detroit. I don't give an F about any of you. I don't give an F about any of my ex-friends because that's what you are. You're know-nothing nabobs suckling the teat of a fucking Kid Rock. I was on the set with A-listers before any of these motherfuckers. And I don't make it about race because it's not about that. It's about support. It's about friendship. It's about love. It's about camaraderie that I thought we had. No more. Let me tell you something. Yeah, I'm intense. Goddamn right. I'm almost 60 years old, pal. I was smoking cigarettes in 1978. What the hell were you doing? So here we have Godwin meeting Eva. Pretty intense. They have 2 different worldviews. Eva is a communist, very much like Ninotchka, a very prescient film. Check out Ninotchka. I talked yesterday about these Maoist ideas, all this struggle sessions that are happening right here with our youth. The template was already set in China. Excuse me. So whatever little tweaks they need to make, well, they already have it. You just fall right into it. You just fall right into it, dude. Right? Whatever. I'm sorry, I don't want to get too far afield, right? But the Ninotchka character is a communist, and then she comes to America and she wants to buy that funny hat. She looks good. She knows she looks good. She looks good. So it's the same thing with the Eva character in the film of Reasonable Service. So this is a film, but who's she based on? She's based on Walter's wife. So that's another character in this universe that I'm creating. And I talk about this universe right here on my show. Why? Because video is more prescient than reading. I don't believe this whole notion about if you read, you're smarter than somebody who, does things orally. Okay? It doesn't matter. That's a medium. It doesn't matter how you get the information. Doesn't matter how you get the information as long as you get the information, as long as you're grasping the concept. Okay? So there's always going to be differences in generations, right? But you don't want to emphasize the differences. You can see, that's why I love this place here. You go out to the park, everybody's in the park. Everybody from all walks of life. You don't know how much money they have in the bank. Nothing matters when you're in the park. None of that matters. You're just dealing with a fellow human being. Hey, how you doing? Oh, he's an asshole. No, he's a broke asshole. Right? So this is what I'm talking about. This is why I left Detroit. I wanted something more and I achieved it, is what I'm telling you. I tell you every show, go ahead and put something in the comments section where someone who could compete with me. Why are these guys putting me down? I don't understand it. Where's the support? I guess it doesn't exist. I guess you got to be a special person to receive that support. I'm not a special person. I'm an egalitarian. We're all born equal under unequal circumstances. Don't come projecting to me. Man, I was shy. I was super shy and I was quiet. And I had to learn how to project my voice. I had to learn how to project a personality. And I apologize that I used alcohol in order to do that. That's what you do when you're a young man. You utilize the alcohol to bring out this alpha male that was lying dormant. Or you could say alpha person. I don't really care. This alpha individual that was lying dormant. I'm not allowed to talk in my family. And it's not quote unquote allowed. There's no place. This is going on constantly all the time. Where do I fit in? And the same thing happens in the Detroit punk scene. Where does my band fit in? I don't know, bro. You look black to me. What does that have to do with anything? What are you talking about? It's asinine to me. It's asinine to me. It's about the music and everybody knew it. But the minute you actually get good, that's why I was like, oh, fuck it. I'll go. I'll go somewhere else. I'll go somewhere else. I gave up everything. And then what did I do? I was making $175 today. Look at it, you jackass. Look at it today. If you're making $175 a day today, you'd be lucky. And I was doing it in New York and I gave it up. Because I needed to write my own project. And I needed to learn how to write first. And I went out on the streets in order to do that. Look at me now, redoing it all over again. Now I'm out on the streets again. Same things going on. Sexualizing people, but look what they're using now. Look at how the game is written now. Antagonizing people. Sexualizing people. And I believe this electrochemical manipulation is being used to enhance sexualization. Okay? So I keep doing that, sorry. Okay? Really is. This is just between you and me. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you guys' time. Okay? I was watching a podcast about pornography. And the girl in the pornography was saying things very similar to what happened to me down in Florida. This was brutal. This was designed to get me to commit suicide. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I don't give a fuck about an algorithm. I'm not trying to outsmart an algorithm. You guys got to watch my show. You have to share it, and you have to get one more subscriber to give us 138. We are 138. I know all about that too. This girl said that she was having sex and she was in such a heightened state that she began crying. This is what they were using. Okay? Electrochemical technology. And she said some other really disgusting things that she did during the porn. Of course, it's a porn podcast. They talk about everything. But what she was talking about was electrochemically induced. This is what people are using now. Am I going to make this my crusade? No. I'm working on Linoleum Blown Apart. I'm letting very specific people know, hey, I understand what you're doing and I don't appreciate it. I'm not my Aunt Mary. I'm not going to go running up to the UP to get away from creeps on the ground. And I believe she did. I believe she did. I'm here to work on my project. And that's what I do every day. That's why I understand every day is a blessing. Okay? The reason I know this was because I've already died and come back. Look at how many ideas that I've come up with. I've taken down episodes after episode. I have one based on the Ghost and Mr. Scaredy Cat, it's called. Based on an old Don Knotts film that I saw when I was a kid. It's called The Ghost and Mr. Scaredy Cat. Look what happened. There's a something came out about a haunted mansion. I'm in the zeitgeist. I'm in the zone. I talked about a Hispanic astronaut. What comes out? A show about a Hispanic astronaut. I talked about something called Brother, where you emphasize the word other. Yeah, I used to say that, the brothers and the others. Okay, where I emphasize that. And I got there's a show now called The Other Black Girl, and they have the other word circled. Okay, I'm pointing out similarities. I'm not sitting here saying, oh my God, the Eggieverse is strong in you. Right? THX 1138, the film, was the first time they talked about a chemical imbalance in people. You have a chemical imbalance. Don't forget, that was Orwellian, right? So George Lucas is taking all these ideas from a lot of things, and he's putting it into his stories that he read when he was a kid, and just his imagination, right? Like I said, that's why I'm not afraid to talk about these ideas. Linoleum Blown Apart is mine. That's why I could talk about a myriad of other ideas right here on this show, and I came up with them. The Ghost and Mr. Scaredy Cat is about a guy who gets community service, and part of that community service is he has to go fix up an old mansion. And so he shows up, and he's used to living this slack lifestyle. He's a slacker. Very, very similar to, who's that kid from Saturday Night Live? He's hosting this week. Okay, I can't remember everybody's name. Give me a break. I like uh, the Melissa chick. I like her a lot. Okay, but you have whatever his name is, right? He's already worked with Judd Apatow, I believe. So it's a guy like that. It's just a total slacker and a stoner. So, and they know that he doesn't have any priors, and they're like, well, just show up to the community center, right? But the community center ends up being haunted, right? So it's very similar. So the Ghost and Mr. Chicken with Don Knotts, he was a newspaper reporter, and they're like, well, you want to do a story about staying up in this old mansion? Right? Okay, so he's the Ghost and Mr. Scaredy Cat. And it's the notion of a person possibly changing due to the ghosts. So it's a different take. Oh, and then there's a haunting in Venice. So we're right in the pocket here. Okay? And once you have a grasp on what I know to be satanic, talking about ghosts in the afterlife, what the hell do you think is in the Bible all the time? That's all they talk about. Are saints, ghosts being possessed, right? And the afterlife. And I'm talking about on the godly side, not the satanic side. It is up to us whether or not we're good or bad people. Right? That's why I don't believe in vilifying others and groupthink and group identifying. What is somebody who happens to have my exact same 23andMe have to do with me? We don't have anything to do with each other. That person has their life, I have mine. But exploring this phenomena safely and under an entertainment umbrella was something that I've always done anyways, and I will continue to do, thanks to all of you. Thank you very much for watching my show. I appreciate it more than you'll ever know. Bye.